Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Herstory Online Summit. Today is day 17 of this amazing summit. We have had an incredible lineup of speakers. You have to forgive me today. My voice is not at its best. I have come down with a terrible cold, but we'll see what we can do to get through the day and share some more amazing stories. I can see the beautiful Velvet is coming to us all the way in Brisbane. Velvet, if you would like to join me, jump on stage, come and say hello to everybody. Maybe come and sing us a song. You're always one of those people who serenades us with your music whenever you come to the Herstory Online Summit. So we would love to have you pop in, say hello, say a few words anytime between now and 11 o'clock when we are finishing this summit. So I'm waiting for one guest who is going to be performing live. He is coming all the way from the US. Brett will be with us in a few minutes, so we'll wait for him. And another guest also might be coming in from Canada. Not sure if he's going to be able to make it. So this is awesome. So Velvet will be joining us too very, very soon. So before we get started, I think it's always important for me to acknowledge the custodians, the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So this is a traditional thing that you do when you are working in Australia, living in Australia, just acknowledging the original custodians of this beautiful country, Australia. I see one of my guests has now arrived. Waiting in the background there, Rory, it's awesome to see you. Let me bring you on stage. It's been really amazing how I have attracted an interesting group of people from all over the world. Rory, welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Now, I know that you and I were doing a kind of a what day is it tag thing. My apologies. It was my Thursday and not yours.
That's okay. That's okay.
And
I,
so
I don't I don't know which way's up these days anyways, so don't worry.
well, welcome to the Herstory Online Summit. For those of
Thanks.
you who don't know, our summit is open to like-minded people, men, women alike. Rory and I met in a very, very interesting way through LinkedIn. And little did I know that we shared a common origin, which you will hear a little bit about in his story. So we'll play your video, Rory, and then we will have a Q&A session with you after that.
Sure.
Here we go.
Hi, good people, wherever you are. Thanks for allowing me to join you for a few minutes in your journey through this wonderful thing called life. Now, you may be wondering where my accent is from, and good luck with that. Is it from Scotland, the land of the haggis and the bagpipes? Or is it from Ireland? Where now, to be sure, it could be. Or South Africa? Or perhaps Australia? G'day, mate. How's it going, all right? Or shall we get Prince Charles to tell you on my behalf? Yes, one is delighted to join you today and to let you know this fellow was born in Arusha, Tanzania. For those of you that didn't know, then I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have worked that one out. And just to give you even more of a headache, I'm based in Canada. But I must say the drums of Africa never stop beating within me. And that's a good thing. Now, I think you already know that Gertrude is a very special lady. When she asked me to share with you the power of giving, I was excited because there's something really special that happens when you give. Many of us will think of giving in financial terms, and yes, that's a piece of the jigsaw, but it isn't the whole picture. If I understood giving just in financial terms, then my work with over 8,000 people directly and many thousands more in over 35 countries over the past 20 years would make no sense, because it's been on fumes. But as in the aim of the conference, we're all about making the impossible possible. Audrey Hepburn said, "Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible." Just separating the word and adding an apostrophe turns the whole meaning 180 degrees. Now, I'm going to quote a few of my heroes in this short presentation, and one of them is Sir Winston Churchill, who once said, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." So true. The key word here is give. Giving is free in the sense that it is an act of free will. The act of giving unconditionally doesn't cost anything, and in so many ways it's all about giving back. I love this quote from Denzel Washington. At the end of the day, it's not about what you have or even what you've accomplished. It's about who you've lifted up, who you've made better. It's about what you've given back. As we give, we open our hearts to go deeper in compassion, empathy, and kindness, all things that help to make the world go around and give hope to those precious folk who may be broken in heart, soul, and spirit. We can't all be a Mother Teresa, but here's her message to you. One thing I ask of you, never be afraid of giving. There is a deep joy in giving, since what we receive is much more than what we give. And as we give, it's not necessary to make a noise or a fuss about it. Giving has a way of speaking for itself, of making itself known. When we give back, in so many ways, we are paying things forward. There are many people throughout the ages who will attest to good things happening in their lives when they've least expected it. Whether or not you can draw a direct line to that caring act of giving somewhere in life's journey is perhaps something to think about. There are folks who would say, "What goes around comes around," and others who would say, "You give out to the universe and the universe gives back." Without getting caught up in theology, philosophy, and dogma, there's enough experience and commentary out there to point to the fact that there is a power in giving. When you give, you somehow tap into that power, and it's all good. It seems to me there are three main ways that we can give. There's our time, our talents, and our treasures. We give of our time in helping others, people we know or people we don't know. It's that word give that shapes how we can respond to the needs of others, whatever those needs may be. Perhaps it is sitting down and just listening to someone who needs someone to be there in their time of need, to be a listening ear. There's an old saying, "A problem shared is a problem halved," and how true that is. Taking time to listen is something we could all do a lot more of. It may take 15 minutes out of your day, or half an hour, or an hour or more. This is giving. Giving of yourself and your time. Giving encouragement and hope. And it's something money can't buy. In my work, I've many years of experiencing the difference that making time for people makes in people's lives. It's just taking time to listen and help people to refocus on their lives. And that makes all the difference in the world. It helps to keep them alive. Now, there was a young teenage girl. She was suicidal and was having difficulty connecting with herself. I asked her a number of questions, which included asking who in her family was important to her, and she responded that none of them were important to her, and she meant it. The answers to my questions were all very negative. And then I asked her if she had any pets, to which she responded that she had a cat. Turns out the cat was very important to her, so I asked her who would look after the cat if she was no longer here, and what would happen to it. And at that point, this precious young girl broke down and said that she loved her cat so much. She realized that she had to live because her cat needed her. And I'm so glad to say that over the next month or so, this young lady was reconnected with hope, and she found purpose, value, and meaning for her life by realizing that she wanted to work with animals. That's one of the joys of my work. Her life was turned around by the power of giving into her life. Then there's giving of our talents. We all have something we can do well. We all have a gift, often more so than we give ourselves credit for. And that talent may well be needed right on your doorstep or on the other side of the world. Technology opens the doors to more connections and opportunities to get involved, to volunteer. What is your special talent? What do you feel you can offer? What's stopping you? Can't, won't, maybe? I'd like to share another very real experience from my own life. The background to this is that my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer 5 years ago. She had 2 surgeries and 25 sessions of radiation therapy, and she was also recovering from a level 3 concussion injury that she had sustained at work. And all along, she has battled with problems with her one kidney. Now, I'm glad to say she's doing well today because of her positive attitude, and her energy in the face of it all has really been amazing. Throughout all of this, I've continued in my work on fumes. I sometimes wonder why I'm doing this. Yet people every day are the answer to the why, and my wife's encouragement to keep going. But here's the other side of it. So much of what we have is 20 years old. I could write a book on the things that need to be replaced in our home, but more specifically, about 2 years ago, our roof started to leak. It was in our bedroom. And so every time we had heavy rainfall, I was emptying buckets that were filling up fast. And I wasn't getting much sleep. We couldn't afford to get the roof fixed, so I decided to call a fellow whose number had been given to me by a friend. Now, I spoke with this fellow and I explained our predicament and that we didn't have the money to fix the roof. And you know, the next day, our roof was fixed, and the fellow said to me that he didn't want payment for the work. He was just glad that he could help, especially because my wife was recovering from the radiation treatment at that time. And in a later conversation with him, I discovered that he had lost his wife to a sudden heart attack just 8 months before. He then told me that helping us was helping him to cope with his grief and his loss. Now, we had tears together, and I could share with you many other stories, but time here does not permit. I'd also mentioned giving of our treasures, and this could be giving money or possessions, or even something as practical as giving baked goods, bread, for example, anything really that helps others to cope and to make it through. It's all about not holding on to everything we have, but recognizing that sharing something of what we have to improve the situation of another is such a precious opportunity and an honor. The greatest joy in all of living is the joy that comes from freely giving. And then there's that word unconditional, which means just that. No conditions, no strings, no expectation in receiving anything in return. When we freely give unconditionally, something very special happens. Giving makes us feel good, useful, and meaningful. It gives us a sense of connectedness and belonging that most of us find hard to articulate. Giving honors humanity. Giving is a pure expression in the spirit of Ubuntu, that we all exist because of each other. Ubuntu is a Nguni Bantu term meaning humanity. We belong. I am because you are. When I was at the University of Edinburgh, I used to meet for lunch with a few fellow students, and one of them was a quiet fellow from South Korea. I spent a lot of time with him discussing so many of the challenges of our times, and whenever we sat down to eat our packed lunch, John would insist on sharing his sandwich with me. What made it complicated was that his sandwiches were often fish or meat, and I've been a vegetarian since the age of 5, so he would ensure that he had a sandwich for me that didn't have any fish or meat in it. He knew that I brought my own sandwiches, but it was important for him to give and to share his lunch with me. And no matter how much I tried to reassure him that I was okay, this was something he had to do. It was a part of his culture and a part of his honoring me, his friend. And I never ceased to be so humbled by his quiet giving. It witnessed to me in ways that I'll never forget, and also made me realize just how much we can learn from other cultures and from one another, that every culture has something to offer in humanity together. As we emerge slowly from the pandemic and the disruption to our daily lives of the past 2 years, our challenge and our opportunity is to rebuild and strengthen our global community in positive and good, life-affirming ways. Let's not forget the many children and youth who have also had such a tough time through the pandemic and are looking closely at the world around them. How you and I treat each other is important. It's a powerful witness to our younger generations, and they're watching. We need to be solid role models for them to build their lives and their future. And as in the spirit of Ubuntu, their future is our future and our future is their future. We're all connected. There are also many people who are grieving and feeling lonely and disenfranchised. There's a deep human need to feel a sense of belonging, and we can help one another to connect, to lift each other up, to encourage one another, to care, and so much more. And that all starts with the power of giving. Mahatma Gandhi said, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. You must be the change you wish to see in the world." So, it's over to you. Take care, and please do reach out to me. I will respond as best I can.
Wow. Rory, thank you so much for that amazing presentation. I'm just going to add a few more guests to the panel. Welcome, 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 everybody.
Hello. Hello.
We'll start with you, Rory. Just tell everybody exactly where you are in the world, and we'll go around the room and introduce the rest of the panel.
Sure. I'm just outside of Niagara Falls, Ontario, in Canada.
Wonderful. Wonderful to see you again.
And
Brett, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, Brett Packard. I'm coming to you live from Nebraska in the United States.
Fantastic. Welcome. Good to see you.
Great.
Selena, you're muted.
Hello.
Hey, Selena. Introduce yourself. Let everybody know where you are.
I'm Selena Cheshire. I'm in the UK, but originally from Zimbabwe. And I am a health coach, a public speaker, and I'm a Hodgkin's lymphoma stage 4 cancer survivor. So I'm so glad. Thank you for talking about the art of giving. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. So, Rory, your 3 T's have stuck with me throughout this presentation. It's a very simple formula, right?
Excellent.
A lot of times we don't realize that just time is a gift. Just spending a few minutes with somebody who needs it. The talents is interesting. My grandmother used to say that when we're born, we come into the world with our little fists clutched, holding onto our talents. And some people go to their graves with the talents and they don't release their hands and share them with the world. And the third one was the treasure, the breaking of bread, something as simple as sharing a meal with somebody. Now, you are African through and through. You know our culture. Until you've broken bread with someone, you're not really friends. So your presentation reminded me so much of who I am, the way I was brought up. We'll just go around the room if anybody wants to give Rory some feedback, some comments. But my biggest question for you is, you work a lot with people who have needing help, spiritual help. What is the best way for people to find you? I found your website on your LinkedIn, but I want to know that I share the right website right now.
Yes. The easiest way to get in touch is through yourlifecounts.org.
All right, excellent.
And just to complicate things a little bit, we've changed our name as an organization. It's actually changed to Humanity Unlimited Global. So we're in the midst of a branding change, but you can definitely get to me through yourlifecounts.org.
Fantastic. And your work with youth, This pandemic has affected teenagers, young people in a very big way. What recommendations do you have for parents who have kids who are struggling with coping with the isolation, being away from their friends? There's a lot of social issues we're experiencing right now.
Yes, there is. I think it's fair to say that the anxiety is high, and clearly we've had an outbreak of conflict in Ukraine, which everyone is concerned about. In terms of the work that I do, we're not limited to working with youth, but certainly youth have been a great concern during this time of pandemic. For parents, for families, it's a time to stick together, to listen and to be there. Often having the conversations, the tough conversations, are the conversations that really do need to happen. Talking about how one is feeling is important, and it's true to say that a problem shared is a problem halved. It's another old saying, and I think that creating those opportunities to have these conversations helps to dispel misunderstanding. And that's the thing that never ceases to amaze me in the work that I do as a professional counselor, that misunderstandings happen, and if you can just enter into a conversation, if you can just enter into that engaging discussion, you can clear those misunderstandings before they grow and take wings and fly, and then we're dealing with far deeper problems further along. So my encouragement to focus is talk.
That's awesome. Very, very simple solution. We'll just quickly go around the room before we release you, Rory. Selena, Velvet, welcome. Introduce yourself. And Brett, if you have any comments, any questions for Rory.
Sure. I was inspired. I missed the whole thing due to the entire piece due to a technical problem on my side, but I was really inspired by what you had to say, and I'd just like to add to the response on the pandemic question to the youth, that leaders around the world need to talk. I agree with that. They need to engage. They need to connect to better understand the living situations that many people are under in different parts of the world. I'll give an example in Asia, in Hong Kong, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Lockdown, not lockdown, lockdown, not lockdown. Okay, in Hong Kong, and I spent many years in this part of the world working in, and many people, they have more space at the office than they do at home in their tiny apartment. And in other parts of the world, they have more space at home than they do in the office. So it may not be as big of a deal, but it's important for leaders in business around the world to understand your people and what, a government action might entail. Okay, it might be unilateral, but it's going to impact people differently. Another example would be young mothers with daycare in North America, right? It's a huge issue and further complicated by the pandemic and the associated costs with that. So a leader understanding what a mother, some of the financial decisions that they might, and a single mother for that matter, right?
Yeah.
As well, is going to go through very different feelings and circumstances than a married young mother, right? Who will have different issues. So I think the point is to talk to people. I think that's what we just heard, and I just wanted to add my perspective from a business lens, that this is impacting a lot of people in many different ways, and you can't paint people with the same brush, which is what has caused something happening globally called the Great Resignation, where
Yes.
people are now fed up with it to the point that they say, you know what, it's less risky for me to quit and not
Yeah.
deal with this anymore than I thought it was previously. I can do it.
Mhm.
And so, and that's going to create some additional financial hardships down the road, right? So I'll kind of stop right there, Gertrude, and I just wanted to kind of tack that on. I hope that's useful.
Good
Very,
truth.
very useful. People do have choices now in terms of whether they stay in a job or look for alternative sources of employment. Thank you so much, Brett.
Sure.
Velvet, introduce yourself. Let everybody know where you are. If you have any
Hi, Velvet.
Hi, how are you? I'm Velvet Pesu, Velvet Crystal Sky Pesu, after my dream. I can't believe, well, I'm in Brisbane, Australia, and I can't believe how incredibly amazing it is to wake up and hear this morning. I had the most fascinating dream. I'm in the middle of starting my School of Art and Music in Zimbabwe, and in my dream, I was literally scaling buildings parkour style and leaping from the tops of them, and I had my School of Art and Music, and there's a little baby that's just been born in Zimbabwe, and her name is Velvet Crystal Sky, and I named the school after her and not me. And it was just the most amazing dream, and everything fell into place, and there were people coming from all over Africa to teach their skills in this school, and I was so proud, and I woke up going, wow. And then suddenly I'm listening to a drummer like me saying every single quote that I need you to send me. Every quote was profoundly moving, and I just nearly burst my whole body. And I just couldn't believe how synchronicity, this whole thing is just so perfect for me right now. Yeah, but my school is up and running as of now. I can't believe how real it feels. Yeah.
Wonderful to have you here, Velvet. Now, Rory, I know you might have to go. So we had a bit of a weird thing with daylight savings. So I need to move on to my next speaker. You're welcome to stay with us if you have the time.
I will. Could I just say to Selena, we're just so glad you're here, Selena. You're looking so well. You're looking so well. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I would agree. I would agree. I'd like to say that too. I have a fond place in my heart for Zimbabwe. I spent time, I never lived there, but I lived in Zambia and I lived in Johannesburg. And I spent, Zimbabwe was when I worked for Barclays Bank at the time. I was in charge of Zimbabwe and 5 other countries in Southern Africa. And the people of Zimbabwe, I always have a very special place in my heart for Zimbabwe. And now I have a special place for you, Selena. Congratulations on getting through your journey. And I'd echo those words. We're so glad that you're here now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here too.
Hello.
It's wonderful. It's interesting. We do have a whole Zimbabwean connection because Velvet was married to a Zimbabwean man. So,
oh, wow.
Yes.
I've learnt most of the entire repertoire, I think, of the Shona, traditional Shona instrument, the mbira.
So she will be singing for us today. So if you guys stick around, you'll be serenaded with Zimbabwean music.
Yeah, the percussion.
Well done.
Oh, man.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
We'll go on to our next speaker. Brett Packard and I met through a very magical series of synchronicities through LinkedIn. He grows leaders that grow leaders, transforms cultures, and connects people around the world. And I can attest to this. The few months I've known Brett, he has connected me to some of the most phenomenal leaders on the planet. So words cannot express my gratitude for what you've done, Brett. Thank you so much for that. His proven methods often save others years due to his extensive international experience and direct access to global teams of professional experts. For nearly 30 years across 30 countries in international banking and wealth management at Citi, Barclays, Australia, New Zealand Banking Group, Brett ran large, complex, high-growth businesses and an array of product lines while serving as the executive director on subsidiary boards. As a country and regional CEO, Brett has successfully transformed cultures, restructured and strengthened leadership teams, improved diversity, revamped fluttering businesses to sustained profitability in both benign and crisis market conditions. I'm sure you have your work cut out right now with this crisis we're going through globally, Brett. Brett has also grown profitable product lines, teams, and complex, multiple regulatory jurisdictions, and has extensive experience meeting corporate governance requirements, including the build out of internal risk management, detection systems, risk process frameworks, and compliance teams. He has established a track record in building high engaged, productive teams that deliver world-class client experiences with efficient cost basis. So thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today. The stage is yours.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Gertrude. I appreciate that is everybody still there? I guess you are. Yeah.
We're all here and we're listening.
Okay.
In the background.
I just wanted to make sure that's fine. I'm honored to be here. Really, really, and you can count me in whenever you'd like for me to add any value that I can. And but I would like to say thank you for the introduction. I would like to say just my own perspective on giving, and that I completely agree that if you focus on giving and not taking, incredible things will happen, and it will happen multifold. Okay, and I have learned this. I'm just a small town person that graduated with 82 people in here in the United States. I worked my way through university on an athletic scholarship. I got through that. I was able to do all the things that you just mentioned. If I can do it, anybody can do it. But I gave my way to where I'm at today, and I continue to do that. And I think I loved my predecessor's point about, you know, if you have the mindset of giving to others, and it can be the youth, it can be the elderly, it can be whatever. What I do full time now, just to give you an example, together with my wife, is we are full time caretakers for her 93-year-old mother, and that's what we do full time. Okay, so I'm speaking to you briefly now in between washing dishes and doing the laundry and preparing the meals, and I'm very happy to do that. She's had 93 years worth of a wonderful life, and we're able to continue to give her that as well, because she lost her husband of 69 years a few years ago. So we're able to give her the best life possible, if you can imagine with that. I've done work with women's prisons in Zambia during my time there, done work in many parts of the African continent as well, in terms of giving. And giving is not just about giving money, giving time, giving an ear to somebody. You know, we just spoke about the youth during the pandemic era. Giving an ear to somebody just might save a life. It has. I can tell you that and I'm not bragging about this, but I've been able to save 3 lives this year just by paying attention to somebody in a tiny comment that they've made about something that concerned me, and just opening up that channel. And these are all the youth, young people. And so give your time. Okay, time is our greatest treasure. So, but don't hide it, because we don't want to go to the grave knowing that, you know, we had so much more to give when we do. So I would just encourage everybody to have that mindset about giving, because when you give and you put food on the table for others, everybody can eat together. Okay, don't be a taker because it will be there. So, Gertrude, I guess those are my unprepared, off the cuff opening remarks for this. So, I hope that's okay. Happy to take any questions or anything too. So, yeah,
Yes, yeah, we'll all come
Mm.
on and just ask you a few questions. Thank you for your
Sure.
input, and thank you for what you're doing for your mother-in-law. I had the privilege of looking after my mom for a few months before she died, and I was in Zimbabwe for about 4 months. My dad died at that time, and I remember spending 4 months with her after the funeral, not knowing that was the last time I would see her. So I lost her in 2020, wasn't able to go back home, but just those few months that I was there, hands-on caring for her, has really helped me heal. So thank you for what you're doing for your mother-in-law. That's just absolutely awesome. Now, you have been fantastic in linking me to the right people. You're talking about giving of time, giving of contacts and resources. You've literally shortcut a journey for me. There's some really interesting things I need to give you feedback on, the people that you've linked me to so far.
Mhm.
And I'm blown away at your generosity in that sense, because a lot of people think that it's the giving of money. It's not always money. It could just be one link in a chain, the right person who leads that person to the next person. And I think that's something you do so intuitively and naturally. So I really have to thank you for all of the contacts you've given me.
You're
I'll
most
ask
welcome.
you to unmute if you've got any feedback, any questions for Brett. This is a time for us to pick his brain.
Yeah,
No,
anything,
I think
anything at all, fire away. It's okay.
now I think I just love the way you look after your mother-in-law, like Gertrude said. It's like 90 something. I mean, I was brought up by a grandmother. My mom passed
Wow.
on when I was only 14. So
Mm.
I understand the looking after the elders is very important. And I mean, you can never go wrong. It gives you joy. It gives you, that, fulfillment just to see them smiling. So
It
thank you
really
so
does.
much.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Oh,
mean,
well, thank you. That's very kind of you, Selena. Thank you so much.
no, honestly, I'm being honest because there are very few people who can look after the old people. I mean, I've seen here people waiting for their mothers to die so that they can get,
Yeah.
the house, the money, and they don't
Mm.
care. And you see that, I used when I came into the UK, I worked in a nursing home, and people
Mm.
they never visited. One guy used to visit his dad, and he used to bring, strong stuff, strong beer to drink, chocolates, and he would mess the bed, and you say, okay, that's why you are paid. All he wanted was just to drink, to say, I've taken some money to when he goes, so that he could take more for himself. So
Mm.
it's like when you care for the loved ones, there are very few people who do that. So thank you so much for your dedication. And
You
I've
know,
already,
it's.
I looked at,
Thank you. Yeah.
I looked you up on LinkedIn, so I've connected with you.
Oh, great. Fantastic. I hope everybody will do that. I appreciate that because, for 30 years across 30 countries, I had responsibility. I mean, my caretaking was for tens of thousands of people if you add them up over all
Mhm.
of those countries, right? And I had to make sure that they were able, financially through employment, to put food on the table for their families, right? Different kind of caretaking. So
Mhm.
actually, I always did. I was fortunate, because of my parents, to that brought me up that way and taught me that you take care of the village, right? And
Mhm.
sure, I grew up in North America, so I did not grow up in remote on the copper belt in Zambia. I understand that, but I've been there. I did make it a point in my career to spend time there to understand what it was like, and also I've told Gertrude that this as well, when we first met, that I all the places I've worked, if you look at the countries, I've been the minority person
Mhm.
in most since 1998 in all of these places, right? That I've worked in. And have I been discriminated against? No, I have not to my knowledge. And it doesn't bother me because I'm colorblind to the world. I'm gender neutral. I could care less, but I do believe in that there are some inequities in the world, and that certain women, for example, need to be elevated into leadership. I also believe that race is a factor. Without getting into the politics of systemic racism and all, I'm not going to talk about that, but I do believe that leadership needs to elevate others. I was on a podcast yesterday, if I could just say this, Gertrude, if we have a few minutes.
Yeah, we
And this was a podcast with somebody that is actually focused on men's mental health. And it was very unusual for me to be there because I'm always asked, I've always elevated women in my career. And so I was asked to, can you come on and talk about men? And I said, well, I mean, what do you want me to talk about? Right. So this is like the majority and all of this. So anyway, we're on the podcast and in the middle of it. And I was having to, I told her afterwards, I said, I normally I don't think, I just get on and talk naturally like I'm doing right now. I don't have any paper in front of me.
yeah,
And she was asking me these questions about, well, Brett, how do you, some men feel that they're in a corner because elevating women, right?
yeah,
And I'd never been asked that before. I guess I'm kind of aware of it. And she said, what do you think we should do for these men? They're good. These are good men, right?
yes.
That kind of feel like they're being sidelined because there's all this attention on
Empowering
elevating
women.
women. Okay.
Yeah,
And I never was asked that question before. And I said, well, okay, I'm just going to off the cuff answer. I think those men in the corner need to get out there and elevate more women, because when they do that, they'll find that it will be returned to them. It gets back to the giving, that we were talking about a while ago. So get out of that corner and do more of what put you in that corner, but be proactive about it. Don't be reactive about it. Elevate more women, right? But get out there and make a difference, and that will elevate yourself. I truly believe that does come back to people. So anyway, I appreciate the feedback. It is leadership is I am a leadership expert. It's through experience. It is very different than caretaking for family, but in ways it's more similar than I ever thought. I no longer live in hotels and airplanes like I did for years. I live in the basement of a house, doing hand washing dishes because we don't have an electrical dishwasher here. And you know what? It's really not that much different than what I experienced. And I'd really love to share my experience with leaders in corporate Zimbabwe and corporate Hong Kong and corporate Singapore. So that's what I do now to that same type of take care of the village, right? So
yeah,
that everybody can eat together. There's so much that can be learned from this that's missing today. And the evidence of what I'm saying is very true in the Great Resignation. That
yeah,
people have left the village because they don't feel that they're going to be able to, they can't stand the taste of the food.
yeah.
That's what's happened, right?
I love it.
Thank you, Selena. Thank you, Selena.
Rory, do you have any feedback? And then we'll go on to you, Velvet. Rory, you're muted.
Okay.
I unmuted you. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I echo so much of what Brett was sharing. Giving has a way of speaking for itself. It makes itself known, and it's just being authentic and doing what one ought to do. And as you say, the village, people have lost faith in the village. The faith needs to be restored, and I think also that people need to know that the village is a safe place. And when we have
great point, Rory. That's a great. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. But, with the all of the anxiety that there is, and I think the important thing for everyone to wrap their arms around is the fact that it's tough. It's a tough time, but we are going to get through this. Hold on to hope. There is always hope. Hope never leaves us. It never leaves us. We can let go of hope, but hope is always there.
Yeah. Mm. That's a
Amen.
beautiful
I
way.
completely agree. And sometimes it's kind of like, Rory, I appreciate you saying that because it's a lot like I always believe that any human's purpose, it always exists, but it's amazing how so many people just can't find it. I have the belief that, and there's always debates on this, but I have the belief that the purpose, we're all born with a purpose in our heart, and we just have to find it. That's our mission. It took me 20 years into my professional career to find my purpose. And it's 20 years, right? And it's like, and I thought I was kind of a hot shot moving up the corporate ladder and everything, but I just didn't really have that purpose. And I wish I would have known at a young age that it's already with me. I just have to find it. And
Yeah.
if you're aware of something, it's the same thing you just said. So hope is there. Hope is in the heart, right? But sometimes we have to remind ourselves
Yes.
that it's really there, right? Because it never went away.
And the thing is, to recover that sense of hope, to be reconnected with hope, you need to have, as you say, I said it earlier in my presentation, which you hopefully will catch up to, but I was talking about the importance of having a purpose, having value, and having meaning. When those three come together, it's a beautiful thing, because all of a sudden you're oriented. You can see somewhere over the rainbow, and it's not way up high, it's just in the distance, and it's hope that keeps you going without getting too religious about it. I think it's frankly it's just part of the rules of life.
Yeah.
Get your purpose, understand your purpose, know your value, appreciate your value, and find that meaning. And when the three come together, it's a beautiful thing.
Great point.
Wonderful. Velva, do you have any feedback for Brett before we release him?
I only
Hi,
have
Velvet. Yeah.
Hi, Brett. I have absolute gratitude for you, Brett. I love that you love your family as you do, and I love that you love Gertrude and treat her as your family. She's got so many visions and ideas and brilliant concepts that need to be supported, and the people who she's in contact with also is such a catalyst for change, and I love that you support her. It's just brilliant, and I thank you so much.
Well, thank you. That's really kind of you. And, we did kind of meet oddly. So we haven't met in person yet, but we've talked about that when the world opens up, we are going to do that. But, it is really interesting because what really caught my attention on Gertrude when we first met was her purpose and her passion for pursuing something. She's incredibly passionate. She's got tens of thousands of people across up and down Asia, following what she does. And these aren't just social media followers. These are people that are engaged with her in her mission that she's actually helped, right? And book signings in the back of the room at these things, TEDx talks, the whole thing that way. I mean, I see a person here that is just full of heart and kindness that's giving to the world. We're talking about giving today, right? And that's what Gertrude is doing. So when I see that, I'm going to do whatever I can to help that person. And that's really how, in a short period of time, how we were able to kind of move the needle a little bit. And, the work is never done, but, we just keep moving, and we'll get an obstacle, and then we'll just bust it down and find another way, right?
The foundation is
the
laid.
attitude. It's all linked up, right?
Yeah, Brett, the foundation is the most important thing. So
That's
you
right,
did the
Selena.
facade, that's the half the work done.
You're right. We've all read the stories or read the books about building a house on the beach in the summer, but when that tide comes in, that house may not be there, right? So we've got to have that good foundation, and to me that comes with our I'll just speak for me without getting too related, but that comes in my faith, right? And my core beliefs in what I believe in. And every person may be different, but there's probably some intersection. I truly believe that every person in the world wants to be, what should I say, relevant. They want to do something important. Some people are faced with more headwinds than others, So I acknowledge that as well. But everybody at one point in their life wants to do something important. They don't want to do bad things, right? And unfortunately, some people do bad things and they get labeled as bad people, etc. We won't get into all of that, but if we can just have the empathy to, connect, especially with the youth, because that is our Rory mentioned this, they're our future, we're their future, right? In your speech. And I think that that's really important for us to keep in mind, that we're all humans, even if some of us are locked down and we're dealing with something that we just don't know. We've never had to deal with this before. We're humans and we're different. We're the only species that has the ability to create and not just survive. And so we have to do whatever we can to help those around us create, because that's what we're meant to do, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
Thank
creativity
you.
healing is immense. There's no end. It's unconditional. It's absolutely, it can be non-judgmental. It can be completely accepting. And through creativity of voice, sound, art, it's healing. Everyone is an artist. Everyone can sing. Everyone needs to know
Exactly.
that.
And even if somebody is unfortunate and let's say they cannot walk or they cannot see, right? And that's so sad. But if you look into their heart, right, and you look at somebody like Stevie Wonder, right? I mean, it just popped into my head, right? You look at the participants in the Special Olympics as an example, right? You look at people in poverty-stricken parts of the world, right, or a particular part of the country, right? So they all do have the ability to create, right? So in their own environment, if all of us through our giving, and we've defined giving very broadly, so it actually, if you think about it, anybody can do it. There's not one person on this earth that cannot give something, right?
Ruth, you just
So
mentioned somebody who is blind, sorry,
sure,
or
yeah.
disabled. I've got a friend. This girl, she's blind. She got blind at 5. So she went to uni. She has a master's. She built her own house. She lives on her own in Masvingo. That's in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
She tried to live with relatives. Sometimes they end up cheating her, leaving her. So last time I spoke to her, she says, "Sister, people thought I was, blind and dumb." She teaches classes. She teaches Bible knowledge or Bible studies, A-level classes. She always has 90+% rate, never less. And she doesn't say, okay, she will tell, being blind doesn't stop me from being who I was meant to be. So there's those
You're
kinds of
right.
sometimes
Yeah.
we encourage you to, okay, being blind, it doesn't matter. Those people, they're very intelligent.
They're actually,
It's just like, okay, when you say, I can do it inside yourself, then you can do it.
That's where your
You
passion comes in.
brilliant.
I feel like I've been so blessed for at least 15 years, nearly 20 now. I've been working in the disability sector with upwards of 30 adults at a time. And my job has been to help them retrieve the gold that is inside them, to learn something about their character
Oh,
that
wow.
they
Yeah.
grasp and truly love and truly connect with. And this group is phenomenal. I now think they have more capacity than those of us who are normal,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
concept of self is so unhinged. They're so free in who they are, and they're so happy to accept anyone and everything. And someone might have a jaw that's never stopped clenching, but they'll ask you how your day is, and the gratitude in that sector is beyond belief. Like, I'm blown away by the beauty in those people, and every single day they make my perspective shift, and they give me a golden lining. No matter how hard my day is, the
Well,
beauty.
your beautiful smile, it's apparent that they've definitely touched your heart. So I
Oh,
think that's wonderful. And
absolutely.
Gertrude, I'd like to say one thing if I could, just really
Yes.
quick to get it in. You know, so I get I get asked all the time about, okay, what's your view on diversity, right, and the whole thing that way. And so I started to say something, but I didn't really finish my point a while ago because the conversation got much better after that. But I
Sorry,
want to go back
Brad.
to it.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It wasn't the point you just raised. It was earlier on, like half hour ago. Anyway, the where I was working in these other countries, and I discovered that I was um, the only minority person at the table, and when I grew up, I was the majority type of person. Now, fortunately, I was raised to be balanced, right? And I'll give you an example in Japan. Okay, I was the only foreigner sitting in a room full of Japanese people, right?
Mm.
Great
Yeah.
people, and English was a secondary language. So I had the opportunity to actually see things a little bit through a reverse lens.
Hmm.
And like we can go to other countries as well. All the places, Zambia, we can go to Zambia. We can go to Joburg. We can go to South Africa. All the places, Zimbabwe. So people say, well, what do you think about diversity? You know what I tell them? I say, companies around the world, they have it all wrong. And it's
Yeah.
the same thing with women. And they said, what do you mean we have it wrong? I said, because it's an HR exercise, it's a human resources exercise. And it's none of it's driven from the heart. And they said, well, what do you mean? So just tell us what your point is. Okay, I'll tell you my point. Diversity equates to higher profit. End of
Hmm.
story. And then they say, okay, all right. So, okay, now I kind of want to know a little bit more. Okay, well, why is it? Well, you make better decisions. You get to the truth quicker. Because,
Hmm.
if you think about, we've all heard the stories that a bad boss hires people just like him or
Him.
her, right?
Yes.
They hire just like him. And guess what? If you hire a bunch of people just like you and there's bad news, do you think these people are going to tell you the bad news? I
No.
don't think so, right? One of the reasons that Hitler, that terrorist, he used to kill people that gave him bad news, right? So
Mm.
eventually it got him, okay? And I can tell you, so the more diverse
Your
mindset
team.
that you have around you on your team in leadership, and this is true, and this is where the companies that have it right,
Are doing.
they perform better, right? And it's not an HR exercise about, okay, we need to have this many females in management and this many Asian Americans. It's not about, it's all wrong. And
Mm.
that's why these issues persist for generations. And some people like that because they like to monetize it and they like to make money on it. But it's not. Velvet. You triggered that. I had to say that in this meeting just because you talked about what it feels like helping people. And back to Selena's point, this blind person that you kindly shared, I view it, they're not really blind. Maybe we're blind. They're
Yes.
not,
Other way
right?
around.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we need more leaders around the world to kind of have this type of mindset, I think, right?
Yeah.
So
Could
sorry,
I?
Gertrude, I just wanted to get that in.
No, this is an interesting discussion.
I always believe that it's like they use spiritual eyes, and we
Yeah.
all have spiritual eyes.
Yeah.
I
And
love
there's
that.
so much more
So
to these
Yeah.
spiritual eyes.
Absolutely.
yeah, so
I love
Rory's
it.
wanting to jump in there. What's your take, Rory?
Well, I was just going to share just very quickly my experience. I mean, you look at me, and I'm a big guy. I used to play hockey. I used to play rugby, and I used to cycle, and I was a very active guy. But I have the feet of an alien. Seriously, I'm not kidding. I mean, if you look at you look at the X-ray of my feet, and you think, how can this guy walk? And I've been told that a little further along I may not be able to, but now I walk with a stick, right? And it's for me, it's a pride issue. I, I have to walk with a stick sometimes, otherwise I'm not going to make it. And I look around and I see people a lot older than me, just powering along the street, and I'm walking along, and I'm trying to make it. I mean, I'm you look at me, and you wouldn't know, but that's part of my reality. It's part of my reality every day. And one of the things that one of you said just kind of triggered this thought, because it's my experience that when I'm standing with my wife, we're talking with someone who doesn't know us, that person, if I'm having the conversation, I'm hoping to have the conversation, but because I've got the stick, because I'm the guy who's walking with the stick, their eyes immediately go to my wife,
Yeah,
talk to
I
her.
know.
It's like this guy doesn't have a brain. He cannot think. He cannot express himself. And my wife Carol will redirect it, and she'll say, "Look, he's perfectly capable of
Oh, wow.
Rory is perfectly capable of expressing himself and talking with you."
Whoa.
You know,
Wow.
It's an interesting thing.
and I think, you know, we have a job to do. There's a lot to be done. Velvet, you've got a lot of stories, I'm sure, that you can tell, and I very much appreciate the work you do and the people that you work with. I'm very blessed that I can get around, I can breathe and function normally. I had years of sports, which is great. You know, a lot of people haven't had that opportunity, so I am blessed. But anyway, there you go. For what it's worth, for folk who are watching this, when you see folk who are have an incapacity of some sort, don't judge.
Don't judge. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you've raised a great point, Rory. Thank you for saying that. And it's a deep subject, and I hate to drop a deep one because I've got to get off in a minute. But you've raised an important subject around unconscious bias, right? And sometimes
Yeah.
it's conscious bias, right?
Mhm.
Or intentional bias, which is really dangerous if it's intentional. But a lot of every single person, at least I'm convinced anyway, has unconscious
We all have
bias.
it. Yeah.
We all, if you have a brain, you have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have to
Sure.
make ourselves conscious of the unconscious bias in order to manage it. And I think you gave a great example that probably a lot of people wouldn't give that example. They might just give an example of, I don't know, you've got a room full of men sitting in a meeting room, and you got two women, right?
Yeah.
And there's a conversation happening, and then all of a sudden you find that the men are dominating the conversation. Well, that's unconscious bias at work, right? Whereas people may not be, coming in the other way, right? So I think you raised a great point. Gertrude, is probably worth a deep dive into that subject in the future as well, right?
Definitely. Definitely. We all have it.
Yeah.
Well,
And
you know,
it's when
Yeah.
you're aware of it that you can catch yourself in every
Exactly.
moment, in every interaction with people who are different from you.
Mm.
Very,
Yeah.
very
That's right.
true.
Sometimes it's like, there was one time I was just newly married with my husband from Zimbabwe, and I had been talking to this particular bus driver for my whole study, so maybe 5 years plus. He was so talkative, so lovely. Every time, how are you? The first time I ever got on the bus with my husband, he ignored me from that day on, never spoke to me again.
Yeah. There you go. There you go, right?
Yeah, it was so obvious.
Yeah.
And no one would
Crazy.
stop for me anymore at the crossing. I used to get stopped, like it was never an issue, and suddenly I'm with my husband, and now we have to look at traffic and actually find our way. You know, there are so many things that became very apparent to me when suddenly I was faced with being, well, I'm now an African woman through and through. I claim it wholeheartedly, and I'm so proud to be. And suddenly, not being married to an African, I have to be even stronger to retain my African heritage.
You
That's
are
great.
you're a powerful African girl. We love you.
When I first met Velvet, you have to listen to her music. If you close your eyes, you would think it's a Black woman on stage doing her thing. So maybe
Wow,
we'll roll
really?
with that.
Oh
Brett,
my
you can
gosh.
listen in the background. I know you have to
Yeah.
go and wash your dishes, so we'll
Yeah.
release you.
Start
But
dinner. Yeah. 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 That's great.
Just quickly,
introduce-
when
Mhm.
we first met, I was making set and costume for a group of adults with disability, and we were making a massive production with Opera Queensland. And I was downstairs working, and I saw this beautiful woman, and I was so drawn. I walked upstairs and I peered into the room, and Gertrude said, "Hi, how are you?" And I said, "Hi." And she said, we're in the middle of a workshop that costs an amount of money, and come in and join us." And I did. And then it was about how to write a book in how many days, Gertrude?
In 40 hours.
In 40 hours. How to write a book in 40
my goodness.
And so suddenly I was on the spot talking about how I rode my bike 100 kilometers to the Sunshine Coast after dreaming that I had done that in my dream just moments before, and like all these things, and I was voted by the group to have a great book.
You still haven't finished it though.
Yeah, and then we ended up playing music for you and your team in Brisbane that night. It was just such a spontaneous and beautiful happening, and I'll never forget it. And I'm so grateful to you.
I'm grateful to you too, Velvet. She is an amazing.
Hey, Gertrude, I gotta jump off if that's okay. Is that okay?
All right.
Yeah.
You can watch the replay, Brett, when you have
Great.
the time later in the day.
Beautiful. Thanks a lot. And it's a pleasure. It's the highlight of my day and my week to meet all of you. Thank you so much for including me in this. I really do appreciate that. And I learned a lot too. So thank you so much.
Wonderful to have you with us.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. See you all soon. Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So let's introduce our next speaker, the beautiful Velvet Passy, a sister from another mother, musician, actor, mother of two, just a gorgeous soul. I have no idea what you're going to do for us today, but the stage is yours.
Very spontaneous.
I love it. You always are. Thank you, Velvet, for being here.
You're always on first thing in the morning, and if I log in, it's like, come, and I'm like, quick, have a shot, like, just get ready. Thank you so much. I was just going to play a piece on the mbira, and I'll play a rhythm on the drum. I'm not sure how much time I've got, Gertrude. Am I just doing one song or two? Like, I can't hear you.
You have as long as you want. You can do 3-4 pieces. You have 15 to 20 minutes. Then we'll do the Q&A.
Okay. And then I have to go and take my children, or wake them up. But I've got till 7:30. So. Right.
Okay.
Great. So I'll open with this piece, which is the piece I first learned from Zimbabwe. And this is made of recycled bicycle spokes and other bits of metal from Zimbabwe. It's actually an incredible instrument, and it's one of the first pianos in the world. Well, they think that this is what the piano is based on. So you won't be able to see it while I play, but I'll do my best. Sorry about the window behind. Woya tatsungara, benvanya tatsungara, misangu woye. Ambuyeni hone mutsumu woya tatsungara, benvanya tatsungara, misangu woye. Ambuyeni hone mutsumu woye. Whoa, yeah, 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 yeah. Sevens on a simba, kushinga, coming out. Sevens on a simba. Sevens on a simba, kushinga, coming out. Torch gods, we ikita. Torch gods, we ikita. Inamo, coming out. Woya tatsungara, venvani tatsungara, masangu woye. Ambuyani handa mutamu woye tatsungara, venvani tatsungara, masangu woye. Ambuyani handa mutamu woye tatsungara, venvani tatsungara, masangu woye. Usually with more time, I can set up my speaker and have it mic'd up. That was very,
Very impromptu.
very, I have an ngoma here from Zimbabwe. Beautiful ngoma that I brought back. So I thought I'll play a rhythm. This will be a combination of rhythms. I've studied Indian tabla and and Brazilian rhythms and African rhythms. So my world eclectic rhythm. I believe in every culture. I love every culture. I celebrate every single beautiful tribal other, anyone who has managed to retain a sense of self and perspective in amongst all the monopolization and the monoculture brow of everything. I appreciate every single person for who they are and what they can offer, and I hope that everyone can realize their fullest potential within themselves and find their voice and find their heart, because to me that is the most integral and most authentic way of living and the richest way of living. So yeah, to that. My head held high, seamlessly spinning, whirling with the wind. I've become Sky Mountain. My river veins, they course into the sea, mirroring worlds within me. daydreaming, flying over the sea, staring above myself at the reflection of me. I'm floating so eloquently with a wail of a tale, singing, this is the life for me. Seemingly lost but not alone, my, how I've grown. It's my intention to be held captive by the sea. Intrinsic nature, processing new insights and realms of flight. A revolution of self-perspective conscience, stripped bare of narrow definitions and the obtuse desire to be other than self-reflexive. Nature will forge your way. Taste, but be sure not to waste seeds sown on the inside. Nurture new beginnings, for the mind's heart can see. For the mind's heart conceives. Sound waves peak and fracture oceans of vast white linear perspective. Heart's exacerbation, ensuing immense illumination. Just be here now, more than words. Just be here now, yeah, yeah. Just be here now, more than words. Be here now. Take time, move slowly, contemplating infinite progression for deep in the heartbeats. Your contribution to that symphony. Just be here now, more than words. Just be here now, yeah, yeah. Just be here now, more than words. Be here now. Take time, move slowly, contemplating infinite progression for deep in the heartbeats. Your contribution to that symphony. I haven't got the best setup today, but here we go. I move inside around ebb and flow. Mapping ephemeral gestures as I go. Each mark informs the next on this earth canvas. Passion by transient revelations of you. Concentric circles, tidal waters they renew. Being here being here tides. Yeah, I'm swimming in the whites of your eyes, consumed by the rhythm in the rising tides. Let them do the I move inside around ebb and flow, mapping ephemeral gestures as I go. Each mark informs the next on this earth canvas. Impassioned by transient revelations of the youth. Thank you. That was Concentric Circles. This is another one about finding you and being who you're meant to be, which is the topic of today in its generosity. The shadow on the wall, it reminds me of your peace. The light flickers in the room, revealing your face. How I stand in awe, yeah, yeah. How I stand in awe of you. La da da dee, la da da dee, do yeah, la da da dee, do yeah, la da da dee, do yeah, la da da dee, la da da dee, do yeah, la da da dee, do yeah, la da da. To you, your way. Oh, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's you, your way. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. La da da dee do ya do, la da da dee do ya, la da da dee do ya do, la da da dee do ya do, la da da dee do ya do, la da da dee do ya, la da da dee do ya do, la da da dee do ya. The shadow on the wall, it reminds me of your peace. The light flickers in the room, revealing your face. How I stand in awe of your grace. I'll sing one more and then I'll have the questioning. This one is about the layers of each of us and peeling back those layers and finding our complete truth and surrender. And sometimes it's just between you and divine, and it's something that you have to do before you can move mountains. And it's not even in your strength that these mountains move. These mountains move despite your strength, because when you surrender fully, that's when the magic and the beauty and everything else around you becomes so apparent that you are almost floating on cloud. You're drawing me in layers as I lay my life on paper. I'm mapping the dirt beneath my feet. You're drawing me in layers as I lay my life on paper. I'm mapping the dirt beneath my feet. The dirt beneath my feet. My brush strokes you in sweet surrender. Dark night falls as daydreams render. And you're drawing me so sweetly. Take time to accentuate that love. This texture's based on you. Oh, this texture based on you. And you're drawing me so sweetly. Take time to accentuate that line. This texture's based on you. Oh, this texture based on you. You're drawing me in layers as I lay my life on paper. I'm mapping the dirt beneath my feet. The dirt beneath my feet.
This is where we have to clap and really thank you for this amazing contribution to this morning. I wake every morning and I'm always asking God to surprise me. And this is just such a beautiful start to the day. You have a gift that you truly share with the world in a very unique way. Thank you for serenading us with this beautiful music. Guys, if you can unmute, let's give Velvet some feedback, ask her some questions. My biggest question for you is, in your creation process, when you come up with these songs, where do they come from?
They're all prayers, Gertrude. Every one of them begins as a prayer or a sense of gratitude or a place of total surrender. And I don't even write them, really. They're things that come to mind, that stay in my mind, or they're in my heart ever since I was young, you know. They're just things that surface. which is exactly another theme of today. I heard someone even say that before. It's about retrieving the precious part of the soul
There.
that's lost amongst all of this huge coffin sound that is irrelevant, really, to the purpose of being. So I set out at a very young age. Well, like when I was at uni, I was teaching children already in galleries and through schools, and I really couldn't. I had this conflict. I wanted to be completely whole as myself without any additive or addiction or other, so that I could truly speak to the hearts of people, truly share that they could be who they are without anything else, and the sense of power and sense of strength isn't my own and isn't ever going to be my own, and it just flows so freely like a river. And the more it flows and the thicker it flows and the more I allow to come through me, the more it comes. It's just like that. Yeah. But I have to be non-judgmental and non-critical. Otherwise, I don't do anything. If I judge harshly, or if I can be my worst critic. So I have had to learn to not even think like that. And it's been working with disability for all this time that's given me those wings, like enabling me to be completely sure that if they can be happy in who they are, and if I can help them to become who they are and they're fine with that, then I should be fine with every aspect of myself. How dare I be unhappy as I am when I have so much to offer, and as everyone does, like, how dare we not offer it?
Velvet,
Oh,
you have a gift. You have a wonderful gift, and you can't keep it to yourself. And I'm so glad that you've shared it with us today in song, in prose, in drums, and I wanted to just. It's a shame you don't live around the corner, because I'd love to just have some lessons from you. I got this thing. You know what a kalimba is, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I got a kalimba. Yes, I love the kalimba, but I yeah, well,
Here's your.
that's about it so far. But you know,
You're a percussionist, right?
no, I'm well. That's for others to judge, right? I don't know.
Everyone. The fact is, we all walk, so we all have rhythm. And if
Yeah.
you just walk with your hands on the drum,
Yeah.
that's a rhythm. And then you embellish it whenever you want to. You start to dance, and that dance, as long as you can accept that dance, it's beautiful. So
Yeah.
it's up to you who's stopping yourself. And with that kalimba, any pattern you make up and repeat twice or three times over, and then add anything else to it, that's music, and it's your music. So you don't need anyone to teach you that. You just play it, and you play it from your heart, and it'll be beautiful.
Yeah.
Everything is beautiful. That's the thing. Like, there's nothing that isn't beautiful if you're looking for the beauty.
That's so true. That's so true, and it shines through you, Velvet. Selena,
and
you've got a little.
can I correct you? She is just around the corner. You know, with the internet right now, the world is flat.
Yeah.
You could get Zoom lessons tomorrow if you wanted. So I'm going to connect both of you on Facebook. Let's make this happen. So the next time Rory comes, he's going to be playing his musical instrument for us.
No pressure. I was just saying that Selena has a little one with
yes,
her.
a grandbaby.
Who do we have there?
That's my granddaughter.
Ah, okay. Hi there.
She just woke up. I was supposed to be in bed with her.
Aha.
Late now.
Yeah.
Oh man, no, that was just beautiful, Velvet. Really,
Velvet, that was really, it took me so far away. I love your music.
Thank you.
Especially when you were playing the guitar, is it? And you were you had your eyes closed and you were so far away, and I was in the clouds with you, and I thought, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Honestly.
I didn't have any chance to prepare because I literally woke up.
No, that's the goodness of music. Take the instrument, play the way you were telling Rural that you can play. You just walk through the instrument. That's what you were doing.
And music is so healing. Like
it is.
can't believe what I've witnessed in my time. There was a boy who was written off completely as being non-vocal and non-communicative, and he was 18 when I met him. And 6 months after painting with him, my instruction with him was just to give him and his best friend a good time painting. Nothing expected from the outcome of this session, just to give them a reason to meet up and stay friends. So it was incredible 6 months later when he started mimicking my voice. I'd been singing to them without even thinking, because that's just my nature. And he now has become Australia's first elephant whisperer. He got a $15,000 grant to sing to the elephants, and his voice is so deep and resonant that they actually respond and they love his voice. And he now knows the ABC. He's learnt words like kiss and cake, and he's talking and he's communicating. And it's the power of music and art. He had been through the system the whole of his life. He had been going monthly to voice therapy sessions. Nothing had shifted anything until it was an unconditional embrace. And that's the secret, I believe. That is everything about the true treasure gifting art and music, is just unconditional nature and acceptance of all. Every single person and what they offer needs to be celebrated. There should be no pedestal for art in that sense. I think I don't even believe in that anymore. My art is about helping others now. It's not even about my own self. Like, I feel like my art is richer now that it's not about me, it's about them, and using my heart to discover their art is the I pinch myself daily. I cannot believe that I somehow fell into this line of work, because I didn't even know it existed, and it just became me organically. And I'm so grateful. Yeah.
That's what Brett was saying earlier, that we are all creators in some way or another. And it's just finding that creative genius in us, whether it's in writing, speaking, singing, whatever that is. As human beings, that is the gift that we bring to the world.
Yeah.
And, you really demonstrate that. I'm so glad I caught you this morning so early before you take the kids to school. And the time has worked out perfectly. What time is it there? 7:30?
Yeah, 7:37. So I'll have to wake the kids up shortly. Yeah.
Thank you,
I just
Velvet.
wanted to say, though, my dream is to have a school of art and music in Zimbabwe that's fully functioning and free for children to learn their heritage and their cultural symbolic significance, to play music and rhythm, and to be looked after and nurtured, no matter who they are, where they are. I want them to have a home to come to play music, and to stay if they need, or to always have this as a backbone or a pillar of support for them. And also in Australia, my goal is to have a school of art and music free for the homeless and for disability also, so that, and everyone, actually, your contribution will pay for itself, and you can choose to stay on, but with every element: permaculture gardens, washing machines, kitchens, community kitchen, the capacity to stay if you need, a rehabilitation of choir and art, and yeah, connecting people to new technologies, allowing them to fully express themselves and find their feet, and then from there supporting them to sell their work and make a living and find their heart and soul in the process.
Well, I need to connect you with a few friends of mine based in New Jersey who are planning a trip to Africa in September.
Okay.
Group of musicians. One lady actually owned a music school for kids.
Wow.
And has just quit that job. She contacted me 2 weeks ago, and I'm helping coordinate to bring them to Zimbabwe for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Who knows, this could, mushroom into something.
Incredible.
I'll connect you with Melody. She's also on Facebook.
All right.
But you're right. The gift of music does open up doors for children.
Yeah. And
Find something within themselves.
and this little baby who's now been given my name, I just feel like putting the School of Art and Music in her name, she'll grow up with this as her life force. And imagine how potent that would be for her to have this as something she can work on her whole life. And it could be my way of embellishing or gifting through her a multitude of things. She's only months old at the moment. She has no idea.
That is so beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Velvet. Thank you so much for the joy and the love that you bring into the world through your music.
Thank you, Gertrude. You're like the only person who knows. I'm a mother, and I feel like I spend most of my time trying to help them to find their feet, especially now that my husband has left and we're a trio. We're doing well. We're loving our companionship, and yeah, there's so much we can do together, and actually a lot of freedom. And there's a silver lining that I'm just discovering now. My tears became part of the global warming issue. I've dealt with that now. I was like, it's flooding in India. I should stop crying.
That's good.
I think your journey didn't need anybody like that.
Well, I
So
did
it
because
just,
I needed my children. I could
She's
never
got
ever.
her beautiful
yeah, that's what I'm
children.
saying. You just needed your children, nothing else.
Yeah.
So some of the attachments, they are not really worth it.
That's right.
I have nothing to say negative about my husband. I believe in him. He's a beautiful man. I love him with all my heart still, and his decisions and his life path, his own choice.
Yeah, that's why I'm not saying there's anything negative, but then
Yeah.
it's like we've got separate parts. I
Yeah.
mean, I talk to my ex like
Yeah.
friends. He
Yeah.
remarried. I just congratulated him. I met the wife quite recently. I ask after her. I don't feel jealous. I feel like
Yeah.
I've got my two beautiful children, which we got together. It's a
Yeah.
blessing. So it's
Yeah.
like that's the what he chose. That's a choice.
Yeah.
But still, he gave me the beautiful children. Now I've got grandchildren.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Good for you. And she's beautiful.
She is. She is. Velvet. As you were playing, I was thinking of Stevie Wonder, and Brett mentioned him earlier, and he has an album. It's Songs in the Key of Life, I think it was. Songs in the Key of Life, and I just thinking of the rhythm of life and the rhythm of it all, how the whole thing just comes so beautifully. So yeah, you are in the key of life.
That's my goal, actually, is just to rise above struggle and to somehow just freely accept things as they are and express things as they are. And sometimes that is hurt, whatever it is in that moment. I want to be in the moment, and I want to embrace that moment for whatever it is and try and make it as good as I can.
Wonderful.
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 There is only that moment. A lot of times we forget and we get stuck in our pasts, or we get stuck in creating the future. We forget to be fully present in the moment.
Yeah.
And we only live moment by moment. So that's a really good reminder for all of us this morning. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to have to
give those girls a big hug for me.
I will. They're so beautiful.
Hopefully, we will bring you to Melbourne. I'm planning an International Women's Summit in person from the 1st to the 10th of December. So please block off those dates, even if you can come for just one day. We would love you to open this event. I found the most exquisite center. It's called Initiatives for Change. I've been volunteering there. They have a beautiful little theater that seats 100 people. So we're planning to have our first in-person event here in Melbourne in December. So mark those dates. I'd love to bring you to Melbourne and have you open the event and bring some drums. And yeah, we'll have a real blast.
Amazing. Thank you, Gertrude.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. And definitely, yes, connect us and we can. I want those quotes, please.
I will connect you to Rory. I'll do it on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. Wow, what a fantastic start to this morning. It has far surpassed my expectations. As usual, I'm always waking up in the morning and asking the Creator to surprise me. And today has been one of those days. So because my voice is so bad today, I had curated 3 videos in a row, which I will now play next. And then if you want to hang around, feel free to do that. We'll just discuss the 3 presenters after we have shared them.
Now I think I have to go and sort this girl out.
I know it's late there, Selena. Thank you.
Yeah, it's late.
us. This
So
was
thank you so
awesome.
much for having me.
Wonderful to see you again.
Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you, Selena. Nice to meet you and your little one, your granddaughter.
Thank you. Thank
Take
you.
care.
I looked for your name, your second name, was there so many rural whatever on
Right.
on LinkedIn. I couldn't find you.
I've already connected you on the post that I tagged you on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you'll see the link posts that I tagged you on LinkedIn. That's the right Rory.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
Gertrude. Thanks
Selena.
again.
Thank you, Rory. If you have to go, I understand.
Yeah,
but it was so lovely to share you with my community this morning.
Oh, thank you. I'm honored, truly.
Absolutely wonderful to have you here in person.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care, Rory.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay. So here is a series of 3 speakers in a row, and I will come back and have a commentary on each one.
Hello everyone, I feel really excited to be here with you today on the Herstory Women's Global Empowerment Online Summit. Thank you very much to the organizers of this fantastic event for creating the platform where women can come together to share stories, to encourage one another, to cheer one another on as we journey through life, through different challenges, to different victories that we all celebrate. And as we all, live every day to create our stories. My name is Sumbondi, and the story I want to share with you today, I titled it Surprised by a Whisper. Before I continue, I'd like to acknowledge that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, to recognize that we are being gifted with so many resources and that we are custodians or stewards of, if you want to say that. And that brings me to acknowledge the land on which I live and I work. I want to acknowledge the Ghana people who are the traditional owners and the custodians of the Adelaide Plains region where I live and from where I am speaking to you today. I'm not sure which land that you sit on as you listen to me around the world, but just take a moment to think about what that really means, the privilege that you have to be able to live and to work on that land, to be able to be part of the story that is being created on that land, and to recognize that the land in which you live and work, there are stories on that land. Sometimes those stories are pleasant and sometimes they are not. And to recognize that, part of the privilege that we have is that we are able to live here and to work here and benefit from the suffering of the traditional owners of the land. And to recognize that even though we are able to partake of the blessing of the land which we live in, it's not the case with everyone. I guess what I'm saying here is that stories are being created every day. We're living on stories and we are creating stories. So the responsibility that comes with that privilege is to think about everywhere you go, anyone you encounter, to recognize that each person has a story and to be curious about what is it about them. That's how we grow. That's how we learn. So thank you so much for the organizers of this event for giving us the opportunity to be able to share stories. To start off telling you my story, I will open up with a statement that says that within every one of us is the wisdom that knows what we don't yet know. Let that sink in for a moment. Within each and every one of us is the wisdom that knows what we don't yet know. But the thing to recognize about this is that this wisdom, it often comes in that still small voice. And in a very noisy and busy world, this still small voice gets drowned. This still small voice gets ignored. This still small voice gets missed. But if we learn to pay attention to this still small voice, we will be amazed or we'll be surprised at what comes out of it. Part of my story with you today is a surprise for me from a whisper that I got. A few years ago, I would say maybe about 7 years ago, I was putting together a few magazine edition of Queen Inside of You magazine, which I only did 4 issues of that. And that meant for each issue, I was able to write 4 poems, which I didn't think much of it. And for a number of years, those things sat on my computer. I didn't even think about them at all. But then in 2020, when coronavirus hit and we were all at home, I began to experience a lot of emotions. I began to experience a lot of feelings that I couldn't really explain. Sometimes I felt excruciating feelings. Sometimes I felt sadness. Sometimes I felt excitement. Sometimes I'm just reflecting on things. I was going through and experiencing things that I couldn't explain. And sometimes I cried, but I kept praying. I remember my husband would say to me, keep praying there, you know what you're doing. Because often I'll say, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's going on with me. I feel like I'm overwhelmed. I feel lost. I don't know what's going on. He said, keep praying. You know exactly what you're doing. And then one day I felt this still small voice in me says, put words to every feeling, every emotion, every thought that you're experiencing. I'm like, okay. Because the confusing thing for me then was sometimes when I had different feelings, there was nothing externally that indicated that I should be feeling that way. Everything was fine, but I was feeling so many different things at the same time. But when I heard that still small voice that said to me, put words to every feeling, every thought, every emotion. You don't need to understand it. Just pen it. So I'm like, wow. It wasn't until then I stopped fighting what was happening to me. I didn't understand it. I couldn't explain it, but I was fighting it. But when this still small voice came, it gave me a purpose for what I was feeling. And I began to write. One poem after the other, one poem after the other, and I would write them, and I would write them. I kept writing until it got to a point, I'm like, okay, I've got all of these poems, what do I do with them? And then the next small voice comes, how about put them together in a book? I'm like, oh, a book of poems. Wow, that's interesting. How do I even go about publishing? I had no clue. Again, I started feeling this, having this experience of fear and overwhelm of not knowing what to do. During the process of writing, something else came up that was another surprise for me, and that was the fact that I had to battle with a lot of self-doubt. That surprised me because generally I felt I was a very confident person in a lot of ways. But in that moment, I realized that in a situation of unknown, my insecurities showed up. In the situation of unknown, fears showed up, doubt showed up. I remember so many times I had to battle through negative thoughts of who are you to think you want to write something? Who's going to listen to you anyway? Who cares to even read whatever you're going to write? And I remember I had to push through and pray through to keep on writing. Sometimes I had to say to myself, I may not understand, but I'm going to keep doing what I need to do. I'm going to keep doing what I need to do. And step by step, I started having more. And the more I wrote, the more that came. I remember when I'd written about 10, I'm like, wow, if I can write 10, maybe I can do 20. Mind you, I had no idea what I was going to write, but I set that goal of 20 after I had written 10. And slowly but surely, I started writing again. And I hit that mark. I'm like, wow, I did 20. So if I can do 20 when I had no clue I could write any poems in the first place, maybe I can do 30. And I kept pushing and pushing and pushing until I have so many. And then I started thinking, when the next thing came, put them in a book. I'm like, oh, okay, so what do I call them? What do I name the book? Because these are all different poems. There was no theme, nothing to it. I was just writing. And then again, the still small voice came, Divine Whispers. I said, oh, that made sense. Divine Whispers. So I'm like, okay, if I put this to be Divine Whispers, what am I going to call the next one if I write another one? But I know the still small voice came again. Divine Whispers gonna stay, but each volume is gonna have different themes. Oh, wow. Well, I've written all of these things. Surely, maybe there's not gonna be any theme in them. And the voice came again. How about you look through and start putting them together? So I began this next journey of looking through, putting them together, and began to learn about publishing. What do I need to do? How do I go about it? I kept pushing my own boundaries. I kept challenging my boundaries. In the process, I realized I was growing. And I started off writing I feel like I'll put it on, writing a surface level. I wasn't being vulnerable. But over time, I started digging deep into all the different emotions and feelings and the fears that were showing up. And I began to write about those things. And I began to write about fear. I began to write about shame and scars and things like that. The other thing that came to me as a surprise is that in that process, while at the end of it, I could think that in a transactional way, when you write, you put things together, you get a product. That's a transactional outcome. So what was my transactional outcome of this process? I got a book of poems being recently published. But much more than that was something else that came out. There was a transformational outcome. That was what happened to the person. That was what happened to me in that process. From one still small voice, from one whisper, going through the journey and the process, at the end of it, there was a transactional outcome. I got a book published. But far more than that book, if I have to be honest, is the transformational outcome that came about. The person I was when I started to write is not the same person that I am now, because the journey and the process of writing actually helped me to deal with a lot of stuff within myself that showed up that I wasn't really aware, because I'd gotten to a place, I was familiar with the familiar, I was comfortable, I was confident, but when I had to dip into waters I had not been in before, all of these things came up. And I'm glad I went on that journey, because I'm a better person for it. So I guess I'm sharing this story. It's not new to you. You can imagine that at some point in your life, you heard that still small voice saying something to you. Something that probably didn't make sense. Like in my case, to write poems and all of that, I wasn't that person as far as I knew. But that wisdom knew better. The voice that came from a place of knowing that I didn't know. But I guess what I'm saying here is that we need to trust that voice, even if we don't know, because the wisdom knows better. We need to be able to submit ourselves to the process, even when we don't understand. We need to challenge our own fears and boundaries and allow us to go through that process. At the end of it, we'll be better for it. So what are some of the things that, I could think about in terms of this process, this journey, listening to that whisper, and, at the end of it, having a transactional outcome and a transformational outcome? I think one of the key things, number one, will be to pay attention. Self-awareness is very, very important because it gives us the opportunity to be able to notice what's going on for us, what's not going on for us, how am I feeling, what emotions going on, what am I noticing around me. I heard something, that voice that said that. What was that about? Was it just me thinking? What was I thinking before that thought came? Giving time to self-reflect and to pay attention. And I know this is very challenging, especially now we have so many things, that's, fighting for our attention. So many things that we need to give time to. And it takes away that time of reflection. My point here is that we need to create time to reflect. We need to create time to pay attention to ourselves and what is going on for us. And then the other thing, apart from paying attention and being more self-aware, is to be able to capture the whisper. Maybe that still small voice comes to you and says something. Capture it. Maybe put it in a notebook, turn it into a song so you don't forget, or put it on a notepad on your mobile phone, because we go everywhere with our mobile phones these days. Capture it. You may not use it, but hey, it's not going to hurt. Capture that whisper. It may not make sense now, but it may make sense later. The next thing I would say is don't overthink or overanalyze. And I can say, hey, I'm saying that to myself because I tend to overanalyze things. I want to see everything, laid out from, I want to know what I'm doing. But sometimes you need to trust the wisdom. Don't overthink, don't overanalyze. It may not make sense in the minute, but in time, it will make sense. Then the next thing is, you're paying attention, you're noting things, you're writing these things down, and you have something that, looks like, okay, maybe that makes sense, or it doesn't yet. Take action. What action do you need to take from the whisper, from that still small voice, from what you've heard? What action do you need to take? Do you need to go take that form to apply for that studies? Do you need to get a new jotter and start writing things down? Do you need to get a notebook next to your bed at night so that when you wake up with a thought, you're writing them down? Take action. Do something about the whisper. Do something about the wisdom that is coming to you. It may not be big. Oftentimes it seems like little, but that little whisper is going to become an echo if you take action and you run with it. And I think one of the other things is to submit to the process. Submitting to the process is not always easy. It's going to ask of you. Because if you want to become somebody different, you're going to have to let go of who you used to be. So it's going to challenge you. It's going to push your limits. It's going to push your boundaries. It's going to force you to become vulnerable, to go to places within yourself that you probably don't want to go to places within yourself that make you feel exposed, like everyone's going to know what I'm thinking in my head when I put it in a book. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen? Or it's going to make people see me when I make mistakes. It's going to make people realize that, I'm still doing this. I'm still struggling with that. If you want the whisper to become an echo that then reverberates to other people around you, we're going to submit to the process. But I think based on my experience, we'll be better for it. Apart from getting the transactional outcome that I call it, maybe a tangible thing, a tangible product, a tangible result. But more than that is a transformational outcome, which is a person that you become in the process. I'm very grateful for that whisper. I'm very grateful for that voice that said, put words to those feelings, to those emotions that you're going through, to everything that you're experiencing. You don't have to understand it, but put words to them. it was something I could have just ignored. And I look back and I wonder how many whispers I've ignored and what they could have become today if I had followed through. But at the same time, I'm grateful that I listened to that whisper and I followed through. And at the end of that whisper, again, like I said, is a book published of poetry that I didn't think, it wasn't even anything I started out that I wanted to publish a book of poetry. But that's an outcome of submitting to that process. But to me, so much more than that is the person that I've become in that process. This is my story. And I know this is not an unfamiliar story because I know that we all hear that still small voice sometimes. But it comes in ways or says things that are so unfamiliar to us, or they seem so insignificant that we often ignore them. Having gone through this process and this journey myself, I began to ask myself the question and wonder if what I currently know about myself is all there is. And I know now that that's not the case. I know now that there's so much more within me and within you that we've not even begun to scratch the surface. But unless we are able to take the journey that we are being led through that still small voice that I call a whisper, we may never know. I guess at the end of this journey for me, I've become a lot more curious about this and challenging myself. And I want to put the same challenge to you and the same question. To ask you that, have you ever wondered if what you currently know about yourself and what if currently actually where you are right now is all there is? And how has that limited or how has that propelled you? Think about that for a moment. If you had asked me like 2 years ago that, oh yeah, you're going to publish a book of poetry, it's not something that's going to come naturally for me to think I could do that because I didn't think I had the capacity to do that. But an interesting thing happened when I put the book together and I was going to write the back cover for the book. And I was reading about what do I need to write on the back cover, and you need to write something that actually qualifies you or gives you the authority to write what you have written. I'm like, okay, what's the track record here for me about poetry? And it wasn't until that moment then I heard the whisper again and I was reminded of when I was very young, maybe in primary school or early high school. I used to have a notebook where I would write things. I would write inspirational things. I would write things, you do handmade cards, and I would write messages in them. And I had that moment of, aha, this was there all along. It's just been buried, under so many other things that I never even consciously thought about that. And even while I was writing the poems, it didn't even come to mind until I got to the point where I needed that wisdom. And that still small voice brought it again. Wow. There is more for you. There is more for me. I guess the bottom line of my story, which is your story, that I want you to keep paying more attention to, is the fact that it doesn't matter where we are, it doesn't matter how much we've seen of ourselves, there is still so much more. But the challenge is the invitation to so much more does not always come with a loud bang or sound. Sometimes it comes in that still small voice. And in a loud and noisy world, unfortunately, that still small voice gets drowned. My invitation is to slow down the noise so that the whisper can become clear to you. As you allow the whisper, I'm confident that there's going to be an echo eventually if you follow through the process. It may not make sense to start with. It may even be something that you can't even imagine that you are able to do, or something that is in you. But trust that wisdom. Allow that wisdom to lead you. You're not going to have the full picture, because I can imagine if at the beginning the wisdom said you're going to write a book of poetry, that would have overwhelmed me, because at that point in time I didn't believe that I had it in me. But step by step by step by step by step, I got there in the end. Now I have the confidence, now I have the belief that I have it in me. And writing these sort of things now is not that overwhelming anymore. I'm grateful for this experience. And I'm sharing this journey with you because I know you have it in you as well. Begin to wonder and ask yourself the question, what you currently know about yourself? What you have achieved so far, is that all there is? And how has that limited or propelled you? My message to you is this: there is more for you. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a great honor to be here, and I hope that you've enjoyed this story.
Cheek. I'm 48 years old and I'm based in Louisville, Kentucky. I was a New Yorker for 25 years and I just moved back home at the beginning of the pandemic. So it's funny how life comes full circle. I'm back where I grew up. But yeah, in New York City, I remember leaving a very small town and going to a city of 8 million people and finding it really impossible to make friends in a city of that many people, which was sort of mind-blowing because I thought it would just be super easy. And even in the world of dating, it was really difficult to find a date. But throughout all those years, I just remember there were so many missed connections. So like you see someone in a subway and then you get out, you may never see them again. You know, someone that might catch your eye or you find attraction to. And then one night, 16 years into my career of architecture and design, I was out to dinner with a colleague and he scribbled on the back of his business card, "Want to have dinner?" And he slipped that to an attractive woman as we were leaving the restaurant. So he left with a date and I left with this idea that I couldn't stop thinking about. And, you know, throughout that 16 years in my corporate career, I came up with so many ideas, so many inventions, but none that I couldn't stop thinking about the way that I couldn't stop thinking about this idea. I actually have the product right here on my table. But basically, based on that card handing that my friend did that night, I wanted to take the business out of the business card and already have sort of a fun saying on the card. So I invented this deck of cards called Cheeked. And there were 50 cards in a deck and you could slip it to that intriguing stranger on the subway and it says you've been cheeked. And on the other side, it said one of 50 different things. Like this one says emotionally available. Some of them said, well, first time for everything. There's one that says, I think you dropped this. I couldn't find a napkin. So this sort of replaces the lipstick and the photo on the napkin. Anyway, I just thought it was a nice, non-intrusive, intriguing gesture to slip these cards to people. And they had a code on them. Each one was numbered like a checkbook. So if I handed you this card at a coffee shop, you would go onto our website and type in that code and you could find my online dating profile on our website.
Gosh.
So it was like a reverse engineered online dating site. And it took me 2 years to build that. I walked around in circles with this idea for a year and finally found a couple of people that helped startups start up and they became my business partners. And a year later, we launched our business. Our graphic designer was actually based out of Dunedin, New Zealand, so not far from.
Serious?
Yeah.
How amazing is that? The dating world certainly is challenging. And it looks to me like you gave people a very simple way of making that connection. It used to be you would go to a pub or a bar and your eyes clash across the room and conversations start. But now with technology, people are so distracted. It's not that easy to connect anymore.
Yeah, I did a TEDx talk on this very subject because, I started this dating card business when Match.com was a thing. Like, this was before dating apps had really taken off yet. So I've watched all of the world of dating evolve over the past decade. And I think it's become more and more difficult to make connections in the real world because everyone's staring down at their phones.
Yes.
And going into a bar in New York City, I remember walking up to numerous singles that would be sitting right next to me, flipping on Tinder while
you're right there.
Yeah, they could be sitting right next to them or right behind them. Like, if people just looked up, they might find the love of their life. So anyway, I've just been inspired by this concept from the very beginning. And what I really loved about this is it was sort of taking online dating back to the real world. So you saw the person in person, you handed them an invitation to take it back online, and it was a safe, privacy protected way to tell someone that you like them or you want to see them. So, but since then we've altered the idea. I was on the show, the ABC Shark Tank here in America. I think you guys have the Dragon's Den there, and they didn't love this idea, and I think they didn't love it because they're millionaire investors that are married. They're older. They have no idea what it is to be single in a compact city that's impossible to meet people. And I don't think they loved the idea that I didn't make a lot of money in the time that I had launched the business. So we changed the app into a Bluetooth dating app. So we got rid of the cards, which I still love this card concept and would love to bring it back one day. But we have a Bluetooth dating app that connects people within a 30-foot radius. So if you were to walk into a crowded bar or a nightclub, it would tell you all the other singles that are there. So instead of handing a card, it's like a real-time right here dating app that you can either send someone a note or you could walk over and be like, hi, because they're single and available and want to meet someone too.
Oh, how intriguing. So the platform really evolved in a very, very magical way.
It did. And COVID hasn't made much sense for our app because in a time of distancing.
Yes. Now you kind of need to think of something else. I'm looking forward to seeing what it is you will come up with. So tell me, if we had an entrepreneur who's online right now, who has a crazy, wacky idea, is scared, is frightened, has no idea where to start, based on what life has taught you, your business career has taught you, what 3 nuggets of wisdom would you give that younger person? This could be the younger you when you were starting off. What would you have wanted to have known?
Like I said, I'd come up with tons of inventions over almost 20 years. And, I ran this idea about these cards by hundreds and hundreds of people. And I remember a lot of people saying, you shouldn't be sharing your idea with everyone. But on the other hand, I think by sharing it, I got enough feedback of people that would email me 3 weeks later and said, I just saw the love of my life on the subway. I need your product. And it happened to me too. I passed all sorts of intriguing strangers and I wish I had my own product. Like, I personally needed it, wanted it, and I didn't care if the rest of the world wanted it. I still wanted to build it for me.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I think it is positive to go around and, sort of use your network as a focus group to see if it makes sense to build it. And if you just believe in yourself and give up self-doubt, I think it could be the ride of a lifetime. I've been through tons of struggles over the past 13 years since I came up with this idea, but I wouldn't change anything because this has been, it's a lifestyle. It's not a job anymore. I'm my own boss. It's entrepreneurship, I say, is a blessing and a curse, because now that I'm an entrepreneur, there's no way I can go back and work for someone else. So I don't know. It's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, they actually say when you do go into the entrepreneurial world, they say that if a man pays you a salary, they're telling you how much you're worth and you're accepting it. But when you delve into this world, you're literally writing your own check. And like you said, you're not working, it's fun, it's like a game, right? And that's
Exactly.
the most beautiful thing about going down the entrepreneurial journey. So
Yeah.
the so-called failures, things gone wrong that you have experienced, how have you overcome them? How would you recommend somebody deals with challenges when they do show up?
Well, I think entrepreneurship is not easy. It's not for the weak of heart. You've got to have serious resilience and grit and determination, ambition. Yeah, it's not an easy ride. And I think it's way more difficult than you could ever imagine, but it's so much more worth it when you get to the end. But I've been through so many failures through this that we wouldn't even have enough time to talk about this. But I think it's important to make mistakes. You learn from your mistakes, you get smarter, but I say don't stew on them, make them quickly, learn from them and move on. And you've got to be a big problem solver through all of this. So one of the biggest mistakes I ever made was we got covered in the New York Times soon after I launched my business on the cover of the style section. And it said, move over Match.com. This is the next generation of online dating. We got the most orders for these cards that I've ever gotten since I went on the Shark Tank. But our web developer, who was in England at the time, so we'd scattered out using all these vendors all over the world, just trying to penny pinch because we're a lean startup at this point. Yes. And we our financial thing was based on a recurring subscription model. So when everybody paid us with the credit card, 1 month later, their cards were going to get hit again with a $9.95 subscription fee. Anyway, that developer in England had that button ticked off that didn't save anyone's credit card. So we lost every single customer. It was the biggest financial mistake I made through my business. I mean, based on our average lifetime user, we added up our customers, and that was probably a $30,000 mistake.
Oh my gosh. And such a small thing just completely missed.
Well, yeah, and the lesson I learned was to test your technology, test it again, test it again. I mean, I could say this like 100 times over. And, I think another mistake that I made was not having a technical person on my team. So I really needed a tech co-founder. I don't have that skill set. And I think it's important to fill in the blanks of what you're not able to bring to the table in your journey.
Yeah. So, a lot of people are looking for ways of creating apps and monetizing them. Let's talk a little bit about the different models and the different ways that one can monetize on building two databases and bringing them together. What can you share in that space?
Even in our current dating app that's not really working right now for many reasons, it was a free app. And starting out, you can't really charge when you've got Tinder and Bumble and all these multi-million-dollar backed companies. You just can't charge to compete against these other massive, they're just the big guys in the business. So you just got to start out and hustle your tail off to get enough users that it makes sense to either have advertising or come up with creative ways to have premium memberships, which both Tinder and Bumble are managing to do that right now. So I think that's, for dating apps, I think that's the main way to monetize.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So if we were to step into your future, you are a woman with many, many, many talents, many ideas. Where are you going now? What is the horizon?
So I'm new in town. I mean, I've been here for a year, but it's been really difficult to find networking opportunities. But I do a lot of speaking gigs. I just hope to inspire other female entrepreneurs that are considering taking the leap into entrepreneurship. I would love to mentor some startups here in the Louisville, Kentucky area. I think it's a sort of a new tech scene, and I'd love to bring that, what my history and background of the New York City tech scene to here and entrepreneurs in Louisville, Kentucky. And I do have another idea for an app that is inspired by my own making connections here in the middle of distance
Pandemic.
time. Yeah. So it's another idea that I really can't stop thinking about. So the last time I had one of these ideas, I brought it to life. And yeah, I just need to find a developer to code this app for me.
They say that the Chinese write the word crisis with two symbols. One stands for danger, the other stands for opportunity. And I really think at this point in time, humanity is craving connection like no other time in the history of mankind. And I really think whatever it is you're working on, if it's going to be connecting people, it is going to go far. It's just amazing what is coming.
You just gave me chills by even saying this.
Yep. And that's why I was saying when we finished the interview, don't go away, because when I read your profile, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I've met someone. I want to pick your brain. But I just want to thank everybody who's come online. You know, a lot of us have got ideas, but we are fearful. And everything you want is on the other side of fear. You just have to break that fear barrier. Give it a try. Look, it's better to have tried and failed than to go to your grave with regrets. Am I right, Lori?
Oh my God, it's like my motto.
I love it. So thank you everybody for tuning in today. I told you we have some amazing women stepping forward and sharing their stories. I believe we change the world through our stories. One woman at a time, one story at a time. So if you are that entrepreneur and you have an idea and you're feeling scared, just do it. You have nothing to lose but regret. And thank you again, Lori, for showing up and sharing your story with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I am so thrilled to be here. I have not had much opportunity to be in an international forum, so this is very exciting for me and very new. My name is Phyllis Urshowski, and I am calling in from Florence, Vermont, where we have lived for just 1 year. We moved here from Florida and we're originally from New York. So it's the third place that I've lived in my life. And we've had a very exciting year of learning how to live on a little farm and doing some new things and basically changing a lot of the way we live. So I'm here today to share things about my career, but also one of the new things in my life is that I recently became a children's author, and I published my first book, and it just came out at the end of last summer. And due to the pandemic, most of the talking that I've done about the book has been online, but the story that I want to share with you today is really kind of how the book came about. I'll show you what it looks like. It's Emily and Lucy to the Rescue. And this story came about in kind of an interesting way. For all of my life, I've been health conscious, trying to eat healthily. I've run marathons. I've been inspired by my family and my children. We've run together. We do camping. We've done a lot of outdoor activity. And I've always enjoyed kind of a good, healthy outdoor lifestyle. And about 2 years ago, I unexpectedly was diagnosed with a serious illness, and it just kind of came out of the blue. I went for some routine testing and was immediately transferred to an emergency room, and for the next several days was undergoing medical diagnosis to figure out what this was and where it was coming from. So during this period, my family, who's so supportive and who I just love so much, they kind of rallied around me and gave me their support. And my daughter was immediately, putting her life on hold and came to be with me and went to meet with me to all the appointments and to my first treatments when they did, find out my diagnosis. And it was just so, it just filled my heart and was really just touching to me. And I was having many dreams, very vivid dreams during this time. And one of them was I was dreaming about Emily as a child, even though she is now an adult. And her dog, Lucy, who she didn't have until she was an adult, but in my dreams, she was a child with Lucy. And through love and compassion and kindness and just being so connected to me in the story and in my dream, she is able to help get through a very, very challenging time. So it occurred to me when I woke up that there must be many children all over the world who have, illness in their family, sickness, sick loved ones, or other challenges that they're facing. And they feel scared and a little bit lost and kind of helpless. So I wanted to reassure children that they can be the hero of their own story and be empowered to help through just like simple things. You can encourage, taking a walk outside or going for a swim or reading a book together or watching your favorite movie or eating ice cream, whatever it might be. Just that being there and everything really could help the way that Emily and Lucy helped me through that time. So it kind of came together in that way. And I contacted a publisher that I knew through my public relations work, and they were excited about the book. They felt that there wasn't anything really like it. And so I started putting it down on paper, and I was connected through the publishing company to this wonderful illustrator. She's from Italy. Her name is Chiara Savarese, and she's very, very talented. And she really got it. She understood the story when I sent it to her, and just all of a sudden, Emily and Lucy to the Rescue came to life and really just delighted me, and hopefully it will help others. So that's the story of the book, and that's how Emily and Lucy to the Rescue came to be. I cannot leave out the fact that I have another child. His name is Michael, and he also, as soon as Emily had returned home, he surprised me at my door one day, and also, was there in great support. So there will be a sequel, and at least 2, and maybe even 3 books, so that the series is dedicated to helping children going through difficult times.
What a fascinating story.
Thank you.
It's amazing what happens when we go through major life challenges, especially health-wise. I'm recovering from heart failure. So I went through a separation, divorce, ended up on my back in a rice field in Indonesia, in Bali. But for me, it was a slap in the face to wake up to life again. I wasn't in a very good place psychologically, but just that little brush with death really brought me back. And I think I'm the fullest expression of myself like I have never been before.
So something good came out of it.
Something good came out of it, yes. Now, you've just touched on how this book is going to help a lot of children cope with illness at this moment in time. The pandemic that we're all experiencing globally is brushing on all of us. I don't think there's anybody who's going to come out of this experience unscathed in some way. If there was a little child right now whose mom is ill or dad is ill, what would you say to them? What 3 little nuggets of wisdom would you tell that child in this very moment?
I would want the child to know that it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to be scared and not to know what happens next, but to know that you are loved and that you can love, and that will help see you through and face the challenge. So.
And yeah, we are going through an interesting time. Let's just put it that way. And I really love the fact that you're incorporating your children in this series of books.
Yes.
This is now a series of books.
They are the inspiration.
They're the inspiration for the book. So tell us a little bit about your kids.
They're my heart. Probably, the best thing I've ever done in my life. And it is so nice to see that these, lovely little children grew up to be kind and helpful and responsible adults. So I've enjoyed every stage. You know, I think with working full time as a mother, you treasure the time that you do have with your children when you're with them. So I really appreciated the whole evolution of them, you know, coming from child, you know, to adulthood. So my son is a lawyer, and he has his own practice, and he has a lovely, wonderful family. And so I get the joy of also being a grandmother now.
Oh,
And,
congratulations.
thank you. So that's a lovely development. And then my amazing daughter, Emily, she lives in Denver, and she is a brand marketing specialist. She does a lot of things with event planning and really very organizational. She's very take charge. She has, you know, and she is a great companion for me. We love to travel together and run together. And she's just, you know, and both my children are just an amazing part of my life.
Oh, how awesome. That's just fantastic. Now, as a mother, a working mother, that work-life balance, if there's another young woman who's listening to us right now, how did you do it? How did you juggle it? We're constantly juggling so many balls.
I know.
How did you find that balance? You know, what I used to do with my kids is I used to have appointments with them. They had a day in the week that was dedicated to each of them. I had to kind of separate it out so they really felt like I was present and there. Even if it was just an hour, I would do something individual with each of my kids. How did you do it?
So, you know, I've watched this happen, and it isn't that much better now than it was, you know, back then. You still have that challenge of having to juggle it. I don't think it has gotten so much easier. So I've gone through, I think, every type of childcare arrangement you can have. At first, we had somebody living in our house for a while, and I was able to, you know, go to work full time. Then we had people that would, you know, come in the day for a few hours. I had my children go to preschool programs and after school programs. And I am lucky to have a partner and a husband who also, you know, was helping me in, you know, the picking up and the dropping off and the going to games and concerts and those kind of things. Weekends, our time, we almost always had dinner together. So we made, you know, togetherness time. But summer vacation would roll around, and again, it would be a challenge of, you know, going to camp, running here and there. It was never easy. It always seemed to be piecing it together. And I think until you have like more programs, like maybe, you know, in corporations where they have, you know, daycare in-house or some better childcare arrangements, I think there's a lot of room for improvement.
Right. Now, you know that the Herstory platform is all about women's empowerment. We uplift each other, we share ideas. I know that part of where you're going with your career right now, based on our little conversation before we started the interview, is that you now want to be able to impart your knowledge, your skills to other women. Let's talk a little bit about that and the importance of us doing that.
So I think it's so important. And I spent so many years, you know, trying to grow my business, work in my business, be the best that I could, and have continuous improvement in what I do. And then a few years ago, I had the opportunity to be an adjunct professor in their public relations and communications department. And when I was working with the students, I just found that incredibly fulfilling. They were so interested. I was surprised at their interest in my work, not so much what was in the textbook, but, you know, tell us about that event that you planned for the client, and what was that news story that you worked on, and how did you write that and make that connection and all of that. And they just really wanted to hear about the work that I had done and what had happened in my career and the relationships that I had. And I just really liked sharing that with them. So since that time, I've also in my work been able to work with other college students as interns. And I am very hopeful for the next generation. I mean, they are just inquisitive and enthusiastic, and they want to know more. Yeah. And I've had all these experiences from, you know, corporate to an independent business of my own to the teaching experience. And I want to pass that along. I feel like I've built up this body of knowledge, and then what do you do with it? You know, you can pass it on and try to help somebody else grow.
So you're going to be starting a mentoring coaching program.
So
Okay.
yes, I'm going to continue to work with interns, and I'm going to encourage, even after they graduate, to use me as a source and a resource. And I have young, nieces and nephews who are college age, and I feel like they've also, asked me for help with, their resumes and things like that, just because I have the experience and I'm available to them, and I want to make myself available to that.
That is awesome. So let's end our interview with 2 questions. If time was an illusion and your past, your present, your future existed in the same timeline, and we could teleport you back to the younger you, that young woman who is going into her career, based on what life has taught you, what 3 nuggets of wisdom would you give that young woman who's got kids and is trying to create a career?
What a great question. So the first thing I would say is, don't let being nervous hold you back. It's sometimes we get so caught up in what's going to happen and not knowing what to expect that we are almost paralyzed and not able to move forward. And I can think of times, as going into my career is like, getting a little bit of a false start, or, something happening or making a mistake where it totally can really freak you out, So I think trying to get over that, if you could, I don't know if that comes with experience, but if I could go back and tell myself at a younger age to just kind of deal with it and calm down. Second, to be open. New opportunities are out there everywhere. You never know where the road might take you.
Yeah.
Just to kind of entertain and think about, what could have been, what you could do. There might be things beyond, what you expect. And let me think what the third one could be. As a mother and as a parent, just really try to enjoy every minute. It's so cliche to say that it comes so fast and you're going to miss it, but it's the reason it's a cliche.
True.
It's true. Right.
I feel like I blinked and my kids grew up. I'm like, where are my babies? Who are these people?
I know, and they were so cute, and I just, I tried to enjoy them and not think that, getting night was so horrible and all of that. And I just wanted to treasure every moment, but I don't know, I think when you're in it, that's not easy to do. So I would go back and tell myself, like, just really enjoy it. Just embrace it.
I love it.
So.
Thank you so much for this interview. It has been absolutely amazing meeting you. Good luck with the book. I know that there are a lot of people who are looking for this kind of content right now. And I'm hoping that through our platform, we can spread your voice and your story across the world as well. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. I told you we are meeting some of the most phenomenal women on the planet. I am just so juiced up and excited with what's coming. Tune in again tomorrow. I'll be speaking to yet another amazing woman from a different part of the world. This is Gertrude Mache on the Herstory TV and the Herstory podcast. Have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. Bye for now. And thank you again, Phyllis.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, Gertrude. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Joanna Chonsa. I am 38. I'm based in London, originally from Poland. And this is my story. So a childhood that was filled with a presence of father who was actually abusing alcohol for a very, very long time left me feeling very insecure, very self-conscious, and unable to really go through and release the emotional trauma that I was holding back in my body. And that led later on in life to a very difficult physical symptoms that no doctors could understand what was actually happening to me. I was suffering with severe acne all over my face, my chest, my back, and also with very severe digestive issues like chronic bloating, constant diarrhea mixed with constipation that no medication was able to solve. And because I realized that I was so disconnected from my feelings and never really looked back at the emotional side of what was really happening in my life when I was growing up, that eventually manifested itself as Hashimoto thyroiditis, an autoimmune condition. And on my journey to sort of self-healing and self-discovery, I came across a healing modality called theta healing, and I realized that thyroid is actually all about expressing, being able to express yourself safely, your emotions, your traumas, your feelings, your beliefs. And obviously without that ability to do that earlier on in my childhood, I never knew how to do that. So my body was actually trying to bring its attention to what was trying to come out of my body by actually physically manifesting a physical disease.
Wow.
And as I start digging in deeper into how energy gets trapped in our body, leading to illnesses,
Yes.
theta healing really opened up my ability to realize that limiting beliefs about ourselves that we form in childhood and in life, the stories that we tell ourselves, have a real impact. And obviously the experiences that we go through life and how we view them have the ability to either make us flourish or make us ill if we're not able to release those emotions, you know, in an effective way. Thankfully, I came across that. I then later on decided to qualify as a nutritionist as well, and really learn about the power of food as the nature's best healer. And slowly my conditions started getting better. My intuition got stronger, and I was really lucky to be able to connect to my purpose, helping other women, you know, nourish that inner wisdom, intuition, inner power, that our body is actually able to heal itself if we give it a chance. And I decided that I really want to be helping women with skin and gut issues, which is all about visibility, feeling comfortable and confident in your body, and then owning that beautiful gift that you've got, and really shining it to the world with confidence, love, compassion towards yourself and others. So that's my short story in a nutshell.
So let's go back a little bit to that younger you. You know, we are talking about energy in the body coming through and manifesting and all these illnesses. A lot of us have gone through these life experiences. I think I was telling you earlier that I went through a divorce and ended up with congestive heart failure. The energy has to come out. It gets stuck in your body. It manifests in illness. What can people do to be more aware of this? If you could go back to the younger you while you were going through all of these challenges, what were the signs? What were the symptoms? What were the warning signs that could have guided you to find a solution faster rather than later?
Mm-hmm. That's a really beautiful question. I guess the first step that really, you know, if I could turn back the time and go back, is to really allow myself to feel the emotions. I guess this is the biggest fear that many women, many people have, is that, or we were told, we were often told that, you know what, it's bad to feel the negative emotions. It's bad to feel anger. It's bad to express anger. And if we don't allow ourselves to feel it in the first place, we don't even know what we're actually feeling.
Yes.
So what most people do, they tend to suppress it, repress it, or find ways that they don't even want to connect to that feeling. And as it is like energy, eventually, you know, the more we suppress, the more we repress, the more we accumulate. And I always compare the body to almost like a bottle with a fizzy drink. The more we shake it, you know, the quicker it is going to eventually explode. And you can't just keep adding gas to a bottle without releasing it at some point.
Wow. So now your focus is on nutrition. I know you talked a little bit earlier about gut health as well. What is the significance of gut health on the whole human body?
Mm-hmm. Huge. I mean, obviously, you know, if we're looking just from the physical perspective, gut is very much our immune system. This is where 80 to 90% of our immunity is, our protection, our ability to fight viral infections. You know, what a perfect time right now to really look after your gut health and feed your body well as possible. But if we're looking from the energetic point of view, if we're looking at chakras, for example, abdomen and gut health is actually very much closely connected to the solar plexus chakra, which is the chakra and the place of internal power, internal self-trust, confidence, self-belief, self-love. And if there's that disconnection on the energetic level or blocked by stuck emotions, we're not able to connect to intuition, to our own power, to our own ability to trust ourselves and know what's actually coming through the guidance, the gut feeling that we get. I mean, it's called gut feeling for a reason, because this is like our second brain. We get inspirations, we get ideas, creativity coming through our gut feeling. And then, we need to be able to voice it out, which is why, for example, in my case, I wasn't being able to voice it out. Therefore, it manifested itself as thyroid issue. This is our area of expression. So both, it's huge impact, not only on our physical health, but also our mental, emotional, spiritual health too.
Wow. Yeah, so you have your work cut out for you, especially now in this challenging time with COVID. There's so many people stressed out, trying to just keep their heads above water.
Yes.
What do you do to help people, and how do people find you?
What do I do to help? There are, very simple things that you can actually do that, funny enough, sometimes most of the time are actually free to do. I have my own YouTube channel that I often demonstrate. I use, one of the modalities that I use is called silent counseling.
Right.
It's similar to EFT, but it just allows to use muscle testing, kinesiology, to actually identify what you're feeling to start with, what emotion you are not releasing safely, and then where in the body it's stored. So you can actually train your body to locate where it is, and then just by a simple touch and breathing technique, you're just releasing. It's called silent counseling for a reason, because you actually don't need to talk about it.
Okay.
Many people feel uncomfortable expressing how they feel. So even if you feel angry, there are points that you just touch and breathe, and within minutes, you feel so much better. You feel calm, centered, you feel lighter in your body. How people can find me, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm everywhere. So
that is awesome. And you will be running a workshop during the Herstory Online Summit, correct?
Yes, I will. Yes, I will.
Tell us roughly what you will be touching on in that workshop.
So the workshop is called Nourish to Flourish, and it's not just about nutrition. I mean, we really need to nourish ourselves on all 5 levels, mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, and energetic. So I'll just be sharing ways of how you can nourish each and every aspect of you, so that not only your health thrives, but you allow your life, your business, your confidence to thrive as well, when the whole being is nourished at the same time.
That is just awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So let's finish off by, again, just going back to the younger you, and then we'll go into the future. So if time was an illusion and time didn't exist, and you could have a conversation with that younger woman who was struggling, lost, unwell, based on what life has taught you to this point, what 3 nuggets of wisdom would you tell her?
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful question. I think the first thing that I would say is allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, and name it. Don't be afraid to name what you're feeling. Don't be afraid to express what you're feeling, and find constructive ways of how to express that in the most loving way with, the person that is involved. Second thing is, don't be afraid to be you. That was me big time. I was very self-conscious. My confidence was, I mean, if people who know me now don't believe me that I was who I was. So it's give yourself courage to just to own your gifts, own your talents, own your intuition. Funny enough, I had little nuggets of that when I was younger, but I kind of pushed it aside because I felt unworthy of expressing my story. And 3, love your body. Love your body as much as possible in how you look after it, how you feed it, how you think on a daily basis, how you feel on a daily basis, because it's your energy that attracts people to you. It's not really just about the look, because you can be all pretty and and dolly, but if the energy isn't right, nothing else in your life fits in. That's that's where the energy settled, centered, and aligned means a beautiful life around you.
And people feel it immediately. You're so right. Wow. Thank you so much for coming online and
Thank
sharing
you.
us with your knowledge today. I guess now let's just finish off with you teleporting into the future. Again, if you were to have a conversation with the future you, based on how you're living your life right now, what would you say to her?
I'd say be even more courageous. Take every opportunity that comes through you as a universal way of saying you're meant to be doing this. Never ever doubt yourself. Never ever question yourself when you know, and we often go into, oh, shall I not?
Yes.
That's why I'm so passionate about the gut feeling. When it comes, act on it now, because inaction is costly.
I love that. Beautiful way to end our interview. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
And thank you to everybody who's tuned in. If you are passionate about finding these amazing women and their stories, join us for the Herstory Online Summit. Today is day 25. We are in California today. Go online and find us. The herstorycircle.com is the website. On Facebook, it's the Herstory Summit. And we're live streaming these amazing stories every single day until the 31st of the month. If you are inspired to speak, please register. We still have a few slots for March, but our next major event is going to be in May. So I look forward to connecting with you. And thank you again, Joanna, for this amazing interview.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Have a fantastic day, everybody, wherever you are in the world. Bye for now.
Bye.